Medieval India. Chapter number 15, India in the first half of 17th century. Page number 196, the Mughal Army. The cavalry, as we have noted, was the principal arm of Mughal army, and the mansabdars provided the overwhelming proportion of it. In addition to mansabdars, the Mughal emperors used to entertain individual troopers called ahadis. The ahadis have been called gentlemen troopers and received much higher salaries than other troopers. They were a highly trusted corps, being recruited directly by the emperors and having their own muster master. An ahadi mustered up to 5 horses, though sometimes 2 of them shared a horse. The duties of ahadis were of miscellaneous character. Most clerks of the imperial offices, the painters of the court, the foremen in the royal karkhanas belonged to this corps. Many were appointed as adjuncts and carriers of imperial orders. In Shah Jahan's reign, they numbered 7,000 and were often sent into fighting line, where they were well distributed over different parts of the army. Many of them worked as skilled musketeers, barak andas, and bowmen, tir-andas. In addition to ahadis, the emperor maintained a corps of royal bodyguards, wala shahis, and armed palace guards. They were cavalrymen but served on foot in citadel and the palace. The footmen Piyadgan formed a numerous but miscellaneous body. Many of them consisted of matchlock bearers, bandukchi, and received salaries ranging from 3 and 7 rupees a month. This was the infantry proper, but the foot soldiers also included porters, servants, news runners, swordsmen, wrestlers, and slaves. The slaves, though not as numerous as during the Sultanate period, were clothed and fed by the emperor or by a prince. Sometimes a slave could become a gentleman trooper, but generally foot soldiers had a low status. The Mughal emperors had a large stable of war elephants and also a well-organized park of artillery. The artillery consisted of 2 sections: heavy guns, which were used for defending or assaulting forts. These were often clumsy and difficult to move. The second was light artillery, which was highly mobile and moved with the emperor wherever he wanted. The Mughals were solicitous of improving their artillery, and at first many Ottomans and Portuguese were employed in the military artillery department. By the time of Aurangzeb, Mughal artillery had improved considerably, and foreigners found employment in the artillery department with difficulty. The big guns were sometimes extravagantly large in size, but as modern writer says, these huge guns made more noise than they did harm. They could not be fired many times in a day and were very liable to burst and destroy the men in charge. However, a Frenchman, Bernier, who accompanied Shah Jahan to Lahore and Kashmir, found the light artillery called artillery of the stirrup to be extremely well appointed. He says, it consisted of 50 small field pieces, all of brass, each piece mounted on a well-made and handsomely painted carriage containing 2 ammunition boxes and drawn by 2 fine horses, with a 3rd horse in reserve. Artillery or civil guns were also mounted on elephants and camels. It is difficult to estimate the strength of Mughal army. It consisted under Shah Jahan of about 2 lakh cavalry, excluding the men working in the districts and with Faujdars. It rose to under 2,40,000 under Aurangzeb. The infantry under Shah Jahan, excluding the non-fighting people, was placed at 40,000 and may have been maintained at a similar figure under Aurangzeb. How efficient was the Mughal army as compared to the neighboring West and Central Asian states and the European states of the time? It is difficult to answer this question, though a number of European travelers, such as Bernier, have made adverse remarks about the efficiency of the Mughal army. A careful analysis shows that his remarks were really directed towards the Mughal infantry, which had no drill or discipline, was ill organized and ill led, and resembled a rabble. The development of the infantry had taken a different road in Europe. With the development of flint gun, the infantry became a formidable fighting force during the 17th century and could even outlast the cavalry, as the Indian powers were to realize their cost during the 18th century. The success of the Mughals against the Uzbeks, who could match themselves with the Persians at the time of the Balkh campaigns, suggest that the Mughal army was not inferior to the Central Asian and Persian armies in an open contest. Its major weakness was in the naval sphere, particularly in the field of sea warfare. Though somewhat deficient in the field of artillery, by the time of Aurangzeb it had apparently caught up with the Asian powers, though not with the European sea-going powers. But the army as a whole, particularly the cavalry, was closely linked with Jagirdari system, which in turn was based on the feudal system of land relations prevalent in the country. In the ultimate resort, the strength and efficiency of one depended on the other. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This was the end of chapter number 15, Medieval India. In the next video, we'll start with chapter number 16, Economic and Social Life under the Mughals. Thank you everyone for tuning in. All the best for exams, and do share and subscribe the channel and keep supporting us. Thank you everyone.